Welcome back to Cinematic. I'm Ryan, and whereas last week we did Once Upon a Time in China, and I believe I remarked that I hadn't ever spent as long as I did watching one of these movies as I did with that one, you know, going back and forth and looking stuff up. This week we're doing Twin Dragons, and this might have been the shortest I've ever spent watching one of these movies. Did it all in one day, which is also pretty rare for me at this point, but also in almost one sitting. So honestly, there's not much out there to look up about Twin Dragons. And we've already talked about Choi Hark as a director for Zoo Warriors, and obviously last week with Once Upon a Time in China. We've also talked about Ringo Lam before, who did co-direct this movie. I, in fact, added Twin Dragons to my list back when I was adding more John Woo and Ringo Lam movies because I feel like they were underrepresented. So this made the list easy because it was co-directed by Choi Hark, starring Jackie Chan, and well into his career to the point where he was certainly calling all the shots. In fact, the directors were chosen by him because he knew he was going to need some special effects to execute on this premise. So he got Choi Hark, you know, the guy who directed Zoo Warriors, and to, I guess, punch up the action, he got Ringo Lam. You know, I'm sure, having seen movies like Aces Go Places 4. And again, I apologize. I know we're skipping like the best and brightest of Ringo Lam's career with all the On Fire movies. This is certainly more along the lines of an Aces Go Places 4, boat races included, boat chases, in fact. Choi Hark says that Ringo Lam handled most of the action sequences for the film, but he had a handful of martial arts directors, apparently, according to the Hong Kong Movie Database, in addition to Jackie Chan. Stephen Tung, Tony Leung, Chris Lee, Choi Siu Ming, and Bien Wu-ping is in there somewhere. But before I start talking about the movie like it's already over, what if I tell you how it begins? If you haven't figured it out just by the poster and the title, Jackie Chan plays twins that are separated at birth. And since this is still a Hong Kong action movie, let me tell you how they get separated. It's not just a mix-up at the nursery. Instead, a convict who's on his way in, having sustained injuries in a shootout, it appears, wakes up, grabs a gun, escapes, takes one of the babies hostage, falls out a window, baby falls onto a wheelchair and rolls away and is lost. And I guess not just lost, he's picked up by a drunk lady who apparently never, like, you get, I was expecting maybe a little bit of a journey with the drunk lady, but no, she apparently dies a drunk, and quite possibly maybe early on, because that Jackie Chan comes up on the seedier side of things. So they grow up on opposite sides of the tracks. The other one, who stays with his parents, becomes a concert pianist, I think actually conductor, but he plays a lot of piano. And the other one is just a mechanic who's really good at kung fu, and that's also about all the explanation you get. If you wanted another indicator of where Jackie Chan is at this point in his career, like back then, Jackie Chan movies were like superhero movies, basically, right? All kind of starring the same superhero. So eventually, I bet they got tired of telling the origin story, and it was just like, hey, you're watching a Jackie Chan movie. He's really good at kung fu. This one had a drunk mom, so hey, he's really good at kung fu. And in that way, the twins are super different, except for one key thing. They can feel each other, like Corsican Brothers style, which is a movie I saw one time when I was extremely small on TV and never forgot. Well, at least, okay, I don't know anything else that happens in the movie except for that one thing, like one of them gets hit and the other one feels the pain or something like that. And that's not, strictly speaking, what they're doing in this movie. It's just that Mechanic Jackie is named Die Hard. The conductor is Mao Ya. When Mao Ya is playing the piano, Die Hard finds his fingers doing this for whatever reason. And vice versa, when Die Hard gets in that boat chase with some gangsters, Mao Ya ends up being at a restaurant with some drinks, so he is all shaky and gets his date extremely drenched in all the drinks, which I guess he keeps picking up drinks. Don't think about it too much. That's my job. So speaking of his date at the moment, the Mao Ya's girl is played by Nina Li Chi, who is from Pedicab Driver, actually. And Die Hard's girl Barbara is played by Maggie Cheung, who we haven't watched these, but I recognized from Police Story, I think 1 and 2. She plays May there, the love interest there. But that's not all. Get a load of these cameos. So Eric Song plays a man on the phone. Choi Hark himself with Ringo Lam and Eng Si-yoon, who was a producer, are all playing cards in a scene. Like, it's a full-blown cameo in that they, I believe, even have some lines. John Woo plays a priest. Fung Ha Khan is on screen as a baritone player. And tell me you got a hold of the Hong Kong version, because after that boat race, they end up injured. Die Hard's friend, Tarzan, ends up injured and in the hospital. And the doctor is Lau Kar-leung. And he's joined by a, I guess, supernatural doctor, I think is what his actual credit is, played by Wang Jing, who wrote, directed, starred in Magic Crystal, amongst a bunch of other things that have somehow not made it onto my list. He's kind of a bizarro world from all the persons I've been talking about. But him and Lau Kar-leung have a scene together. Lau Kar-leung plays the traditional doctor, and eventually they have a difference of opinions. And Lau Kar-leung punches Wang Jing into a wall, but like Looney Tunes style, which might be a phrase I return to throughout describing this movie, in that Wang Jing is like, like literally pressed into the wall in that form right there. So yes, it's kind of a one-off scene that you could bet somebody in a suit somewhere wouldn't understand, because if you did see the US Chop Job, you didn't see that scene at all. They cut 14 whole minutes. The Lau Kar-leung scene included, and I think there's a scene of Maggie Cheung singing. But I'll tell you what, I can see why maybe they would have wanted to tighten this thing up, because that's the bit. They're twins, separated at birth, grew up on different sides of the tracks. What type of funny business can we get into? And pretty good. I will tell you, when they finally meet, okay, well, they do. When they first meet, they kind of blow each other off. It's like, I'm pretty sure they get a good look at each other, and they're just like, oh, weird, and keep going. But eventually they end up at the same restaurant with their dates, and the girls get switched. They end up going back with the wrong guy and falling in love, actually, with the other guy, because they match up better the other way around. But we don't leave that restaurant without some good old-fashioned split screen tricks, like throwing one thing that comes down on the other side. And they're good, with some exceptions, like some glaring exceptions, unfortunately. Like, I feel like those will probably be the ones you hear about if somebody's like, oh yeah, Twin Dragons was good, but the special effects were bad. Like, they're 75 to 80% very good, except, the times where one of them, like his shoulder clips into the other guy, kind of like Al in Quantum Leap style, like whenever he would walk through something, and it's not color grading at that point, I forget, but the superimposition was obvious, like something was going to happen because you could tell it was different. I should find out the mechanics behind that someday.
Oh boy.
But most of it, very good. Even on the angle stuff, like there is some stuff, speaking of the kind of classic jokes that you're going to get, where it's like split right down the middle, and one of them is seated at a table on one side and the other's on the other side, and they're, it's all good. But also the editing, when it's all put together, they do a good job with that. And Jackie Chan himself, I think he does a darn good job. Jackie Chan, man, I don't think he gets the credit as an actor that he deserves here and there, for as, astounding as he is at the stunts and the action and all that stuff. Like, when I sit down and watch him act, I'm like, oh, and here he, I think, inhabits two different characters and plays them two different ways, body language included, in fact, emphasized, I would say. So all that stuff comes together really well, actually, which is good, because it's, central part of the movie. And I'll say this about it, as, like I said, you get the gist, and you probably, broad strokes, know what the movie is going to do. In the moment to moment, though, I kind of never knew, like, what was going to happen necessarily, but also nobody reacted in the way that I expected them to. There's kind of two big events that are set up in the movie. Ma Ya has a concert coming up, and Die Hard has technically a race coming up. Like at the very beginning when they rescue Barbara, Maggie Cheung's character, it's from a group of gangsters, and the way they get out of that is to be like, I'll race you. And they agree to a race. So that's, I feel like, supposed to be hanging over their heads, but isn't. Like none of these two events that I'm going to tell you about are really driving things. You know, at no point you're like, well, they better hurry before such and such happens. No, you're kind of here to revel in the bit. And I do. Like when the concert comes up and Die Hard has to figure out how to actually conduct, and he almost falls off the stage and does kind of this thing, and the band plays perfectly for it. Like, and then he figures it out and he's like jumping around the room. It works. And even before that, when they do actually meet for the first time, like they actually clock each other in a bathroom at a urinal, I still don't expect what happens in the way that they figure everything out like super quickly, like up to the Korskin brothers stuff. They're like, oh, were you on a boat for some reason? Oh, that's why. You know, like they figure it out really quickly. And they're kind of over it just as quick too. They're like, okay, well, it's on to the next thing, which is the concert. But the actual thing, the thing they save for the finale, you know, that's where they're going to put all the fighting to, is when the gangsters do catch up to Die Hard. Again, supposedly for a race, but there's a briefcase full of money. It's in there somewhere. That's the thing. Even though I do never get tired of all of the mugging and fainting, you know, speaking of reveling in the bit, like anytime somebody sees them both at the same time, they're like, oh, you know, like that. Like it's great. But if you're here for the action, it's the last, you know, 20 to 30 minutes are what you're looking for and do pay off. So if you're wondering if they somehow figure out how to give you twice the Jackie Chan action, I mean, think about it. A classic kinetic Jackie Chan action sequence choreographed by all those guys I mentioned, Yen Wu-ping included, but also while doing all of the split screen stuff. Like, can you imagine? Because you have to, because that's not what they do here. They stick with the gags, and there's some still very good choreo. I think where it loses a little bit of its punch in the finale is because Jackie and Sammo and Yen Wu-ping, I feel like have this signature, maybe it's more pronounced with Jackie actually, where they walk into a room and are just like, how can I use this room? And it's different for every room, and what's in this room, and stuff like that. And I'll admit, like, I feel a certain kinship with them, and there's probably several examples of this, but in the way skateboarding changed me, like I don't look at anything like I used. I don't even remember what I used to look at things like before I was skateboarding. Now, to this day, and I obviously do not skateboard as much as I used to, and I don't think I've even been on a skateboard for a little bit of time. I see skate spots. It's all, you know, driving around town, I'm like, there's a handrail, there's a gap, there's a, you know, like all of it, the whole entire world is recontextualized. I'm sure that goes for Jackie and Sammo and master choreographers like them. They've done that here with this movie, but they've done it in a Mitsubishi factory, in like a test factory, which I've never actually read this. I'm pretty sure there must have been some agreement. I feel like I've seen Mitsubishi in enough Jackie Chan movies at this point that like some money was changing hands, but it's not like egregious like it was in Tiger Cage 2 or something like that. You know, they don't hang on a Mitsubishi logo for so long that you're like, what's happening here? It's just that, you know, they've set this finale in a Mitsubishi factory, and what I'm trying to get at is that it maybe loses a little bit of the accessibility for it. Like, it's still wildly inventive and fun and all this stuff, but it's not in a space that we can all recognize for one reason or another. So maybe there's a little bit lost there. But I did get one thing actually right. One thing that did actually come back that I was expecting was the Korskin brothers thing as part of the final fight. And they do that, and the payoff is good. So yeah, you can do a lot worse than like a B Jackie Chan movie. And I'm not even saying this is like a bad, B Jackie Chan movie. It is at worst, boring is also the wrong word. Never ever bored. And like I said, I watched this all in one sitting, if that proves anything, and stayed awake. Look at that. It's just maybe sometimes a little bit more uneventful, I guess, which still seems like a weird thing to say. I don't know. At this point, you get what I'm talking about. It's a good, fun movie, Twin Dragons. You hear about it probably the right amount that you hear about it. You're going to hear about all the police stories and Operation Condors before you hear about this one necessarily. But it's a fun watch. I have a hard time believing you wouldn't be entertained to some extent. So come back next week where you just might be entertained by, Hard Boiled is next on the ticket. I've seen that before, so that is one I want to show to the family and kind of bring them on to talk about it. So quite possibly look forward to that. My wife's out of town at the moment, so this might be a quick turnaround if I do get it done. So maybe we're going back to Once Upon a Time in China already with the sequel there. So either way, come back next week and check it out. It will be on Friday. I know sometimes these come out on Saturday or Sunday, even last week as it were. That shouldn't stop you from going to Patreon or PayPal to help, or like and subscribe, or whatever. Be there. Comment. I'm easy. Oh wait, I'll tell you what you can do. So Chasers Season 2 wrapped. It is done. The last episode came out on Wednesday, and you can go watch that, and it's great. Season 3, we want your input. Like, what box should we tear into next? So there is a poll out there. Do me a favor, go vote in the poll. Help me out. I don't care if you're never going to watch the series. I want as many votes as I can get. And then that's the series that we'll make after that. That's the season that we'll make after that. So thank you. Okay.